My husband's cousin swapped our babies while I was passed out after giving birth. So I waited until she was asleep and swapped them right back. Now she tortures her own daughter every day while showering mine with love. I just watch and wipe away my tears. What a tragedy. Serves her right. The day I gave birth, I'd been up all night, completely engrossed in a historical drama about a baby swap plot. I was getting to the best part, on the edge of my seat, when my water broke. Trembling, I grabbed Daisy, the maid waiting on me. Watch my baby. Don't let anyone switch her. The delivery was brutal. The whole wing of the house was in chaos, and I eventually passed out from the pain. Just before I went under, I heard a maid shouting, Sir, Miss Lily is going into labor too. You have to go see her." I reached for him. "Honey, don't go." I clung to his sleeve, but he pried my fingers off one by one. His voice was gentle but firm. "I have to go check on your cousin. She's so fragile, not tough like you." The pain finally took me. When I opened my eyes, Daisy was kneeling by my bed, sobbing. "Ma'am, they took the baby. They swapped her." "What?" I whipped my head around to look at the tablet still playing the show on my nightstand. The story I was just watching was happening to me. Through her tears, Daisy told me that after I passed out, the baby was born, but my husband, Ethan, had dismissed all the maids, nannies, and the midwife, leaving only her to look after me. Remembering my words, she'd put a tiny lipstick mark on my daughter's foot before going to get hot water. When she came back, the mark was gone. The room had been a whirlwind of activity, and she hadn't gotten a clear look at the baby's face. She'd just dabbed the lipstick on the sole of her foot. Without that mark, she was afraid she wouldn't be able to tell the babies apart. "Did anyone come in here while you were gone?" Miss Lily's personal maid, Stella, came by. She brought a basket, said it was a snack for you. When she saw I was rushing to get water, she offered to watch you and the baby, so I. Daisy fell to the floor and started banging her head on it. "I deserve to die." "No," I said, my voice hoarse. "You did a great job. Now I have a task for you, a way to make up for this." Yes, whatever you need. You stand guard here. Don't let anyone in, and don't let anyone realize I'm gone." "Ma'am, where are you going?" "To get my daughter back." I picked up the baby girl who'd been left in the cradle. She was wrapped in the soft satin blanket I'd prepared, but her face was pale and she was barely breathing. Her cries were as faint as a kitten's. This wasn't my daughter. When my baby was born, her screams were so loud they jolted me out of my stupor. My daughter had been swapped. Luckily, Stella had only just left. I gave Daisy careful instructions. No one should be coming by for a while. If she dared to switch the babies, she must have paid everyone off to clear the way. "Ma'am, let me go instead. I need you here to cover for me. This is something I have to do myself." I picked up the baby, forcing my weak, postpartum body to move, and followed. The hallways were empty, as if they'd been intentionally cleared. I saw Stella's back in the distance and crept silently behind her. Stella must have been nervous. She clutched the baby and hurried along, head down, never noticing she was being followed. She went straight to Lily's wing of the house. Outside Lily's door was a shabby, dirty-looking bassinet with flies buzzing around it. She placed my daughter in that bassinet, and then pushed the door open and went inside. Faster than I thought possible, I rushed over and swapped the babies back. My daughter felt heavy and real in my arms again, a comforting weight. I was about to turn and leave when I heard voices from inside the room. It was Lily, her voice thick with fake tears. "Ethan, darling, I had no choice. Our daughter is so weak. If she stays with me, she'll never get the care she would from the main lady of the house. After all, Claire's education and family background are so much better than mine." My husband, Ethan, let out a cold laugh. "She only got to be my wife because of her family's money. If she hadn't stolen your place, our daughter would have been the legitimate one." Lily quickly soothed him. "Don't be angry, my love. Now our daughter can still be raised as the legitimate heir. It's the least I can do to show you my devotion. Don't worry, she won't be having any more kids. I've been putting a little something in her water to make sure she's sterile. From now on, she'll have no choice but to raise our daughter. She won't get suspicious, will she? Relax. I've been telling her this baby is from your ex-husband, And that after the divorce you had nowhere else to go. She won't suspect a thing. As long as I'm here, you have nothing to worry about. Oh, Ethan, after everything I've been through, I finally see that you're a real man. Inside the room, the two lovers whispered sweet nothings, while outside, mosquitoes started landing on the baby girl in the dirty bassinet. I quietly carried my daughter away and returned to my own rooms, a bone-deep chill seeping into me. Back in my suite, Daisy was pacing frantically. When she saw me return, looking like a ghost and clutching the baby, she rushed to help. She helped me into bed, covered me with a thick blanket, and handed me a cup of hot tea before turning to care for my daughter. I stared at the steaming tea, thinking about what I'd just heard, and my stomach turned. I shoved it aside. Everything from the small kitchen today, the water, the tea, the soup, throw it all out. Get rid of it. Daisy looked at me confused, but didn't ask questions. She just nodded and took it away. Still uneasy, I had the nannies spend the night scrubbing every pot, pan, and dish in our kitchenette. After sending everyone away, I sat on the bed for a long time, trying to process everything, before the tears finally started to fall. When I married into the Song family, they were so broke they couldn't afford meat. They poured everything they had into Ethan's education, but it was never enough. Ethan, a scrawny intellectual, tried working at the docks hauling cargo, but broke a rib under the weight of 2 sacks. The company paid him $10,000 in compensation, and the family lived off that money for a while, literally living off Ethan's broken rib. After his rib healed, he found work copying books for a shop, but he knocked over a candle and burned off half an eyebrow and part of his face. Though he recovered, the shop still gave him $2,000 in damages, and the family spent the next few months living off Ethan's singed eyebrow. By the time his eyebrow grew back, he couldn't find work. He eventually collapsed from hunger on the street, which is where I found him. Ethan was charming and well-spoken, and it didn't take long for me to fall for him. He immediately came to my family to propose. My father looked down on his family's poverty. They weren't even working class, but he couldn't say no to me. With my family's financial support, he passed the state exams, secured a decent government position, and finally made something of himself. But he was new to his post and still poor. Our household ran entirely on subsidies from my family. Just as life was starting to get better, his cousin Lily showed up, pregnant and knocking on our door. She knelt and begged him to take her in. They had apparently been engaged years ago, but after the Song family fell on hard times, Lily married someone else. She claimed her husband was a monster who beat her daily, and she'd had no choice but to divorce him and seek refuge with her cousin. I felt sorry for her and let her stay. I never imagined she and Ethan would conspire against me. A baby from her ex-husband? What a joke. Those 2 snakes had probably been sleeping together for ages. The baby was definitely Ethan's. But now I had my daughter back. I couldn't wait to see what kind of twisted show they'd put on next. Daisy brought some nourishing broth over to Lily's rooms, and came back to report that both she and Ethan had drunk every last drop. That night, the maids and nannies gradually returned, kneeling on the floor to beg for my forgiveness. I ignored them all, just holding my daughter tightly. They looked at me with pity, but not a single one of them told me the truth. I laughed to myself. I hadn't realized that in the short time Lily had been here, she had already turned my entire staff against me. Later that night, a baby's cry echoed from Lily's wing, but it was quickly silenced. Daisy snuck over to check, and came back with a look of disbelief. Miss Lily said she was afraid of the baby being stolen, so she branded her with a hot iron. I think it was a word. What word? I can't read, ma'am, but they said it was a bad one. Something ugly with lots of sharp lines. My heart skipped a beat. I grabbed a book of poetry from the nightstand, flipped to a page, and pointed at a line. Like fallen snow, she is worthless as mud. I asked, was it this word? Her eyes landed on the word worthless. She clapped her hands. Yes, that's the one. The book fell from my hands. I hugged my daughter, a cold fear washing over me. If I hadn't been watching that stupid drama, if I hadn't told Daisy to be careful, that would be my daughter right now. Lily was truly ruthless. The next day, Ethan finally came to my rooms, a broad smile on his face as he took my hand. Claire, you've worked so hard. I was up all night thinking of names for our daughter. Pick your favorite. He eagerly handed me a piece of paper filled with beautiful, thoughtfully chosen girls' names. But I had no intention of using his suggestions. I've already thought of one. Ava. For her graceful smile and elegant nature. Ava Song. What do you think? He was full of praise. Of course. Our daughter has to be raised by you. It's a beautiful name, just beautiful. I feigned confusion. What do you mean? Has to be raised by me. My mother wanted to raise our daughter, but I stopped her. You come from a prestigious family, your manners and education are first class. Of course you should be the one to raise her. We'll call her Ava. Ava Song. It's perfect. I couldn't help but ask. What about your cousin's baby? Does she have a name? Oh, her, Ethan said, his smile vanishing, his tone full of contempt. I named her Hope, as in hopeless. What's her last name? She doesn't have one. A fatherless bastard child is lucky to have a name at all, he snapped. I looked down, gently patting Ava in my arms, my heart filled with sorrow. He truly despised me to the core. The only pity was the person he was taking it all out on wasn't my daughter, but the daughter of his beloved cousin. At Ava's 1-month celebration, Lily presented a magnificent gift. She was fair-skinned and slender, dressed in a simple, light blue dress with a single silver pin in her hair. She smiled sweetly as she placed a beautifully crafted, engraved gold collar around my daughter's neck. She's just a baby. You shouldn't have given her something so precious, I said, trying to refuse. Lily's smile was angelic. Don't say that, Claire. I fell in love with this child the moment I saw her. I want to give her the best of everything in the world. Even though my family isn't as wealthy as yours, she continued, I know that a daughter of the Song family deserves nothing but the finest. She glanced dismissively at the soft satin Ava was wearing. This material isn't very expensive. Don't tell me you're starting to neglect her just because she's a girl. My mother-in-law was beaming at Lily with approval. My difficult labor had taken a toll on my body, and the doctor had warned that having more children might be difficult. Though nothing was certain, my mother-in-law was already scouting for potential mistresses for Ethan. After presenting her gift, Lily held Ava for a long time, cooing and kissing her, only handing her back when her arms grew tired. Little Ava is so beautiful. I wish she were mine, she said with such innocent charm that everyone around her murmured in approval. After greeting guests for a while, I felt exhausted and asked the wet nurse to bring Ava back to my bedroom with me. But Lily followed, a sallow-faced maid trailing behind her. The maid held a frail baby girl. Both of them, the maid and the baby, had sparse hair and looked so weak they might blow over in a breeze. It was Stella and the baby from the failed swap, Zoe. I feigned concern. Whose wife and child are these? They look so thin. Don't stand in the draft, come over here. The two of them stood there, as if they were deaf. Lily laughed. Oh, that's just my little maid, Claire. Since I'm just staying here for now, this little wretch doesn't have a proper place. No need for a formal title. We'll just raise her like a cat or a dog. As she said this, her expression was still one of sweet innocence. She reached out and poked the baby's face with her delicate fingers. I don't know if she poked too hard, but the baby started to cry. Her cries were as weak as a kitten's and died out after a few whimpers. Why would you treat an infant like that? She let out a small laugh. You think I'm being harsh, Claire? In any other wealthy family, a bastard maid and her bastard child would have been drowned at birth. I was merciful enough to let them live, but you can't have order without discipline. They need to learn to obey. I was about to say more, but a voice from behind me exclaimed, Well said. I turned to see my mother-in-law. She walked up, smiling, and grabbed Lily's hand. Good girl. I knew you were a good one, Lily. Strict but fair. You'd be a natural at running a household. Lily blushed and lowered her head as my mother-in-law held her hand. The two of them were a picture of affection, while I, the actual daughter-in-law, was left standing awkwardly to the side. After a moment, my mother-in-law turned to me. Claire, you went through so much giving birth. I think you should take a few years to rest and recover. Let Lily manage the household for you. I frowned. Lily was just a relative staying with us. How could she run the house? When I didn't answer, Lily's eyes immediately welled up with tears. My mother-in-law was clearly displeased. What's wrong, Claire? Don't you want to focus on raising your daughter? Of course I want to focus on my daughter. But what position would Lily have to manage the house? She shows up here with a daughter from a previous man, and now wants to run the Song family household? That seems incredibly shameless. Lily's tears spilled over, and she turned and ran out of the room. Ethan stormed in, pointing a finger at me, his face livid. Claire, you jealous shrew. Lily and I grew up together. I will not allow you to disrespect her like this. I replied calmly. A divorced woman who runs to her cousin's house for shelter, gives birth to a bastard child, and then tries to take over the household? It's a complete joke. A bastard child? Ethan sneered. I'll make her an honest woman today, and I'd like to see anyone dare to say a word against it. That night, Ethan slept in Lily's room. The next day he declared her his second wife. Daisy did some eavesdropping and reported back to me. Lily told the master that the more they make you despair, the more you'll focus all your energy on the child and raise her well. I scoffed. Oh yes, I would definitely raise my child well. And I couldn't wait to see how they raised theirs. When Lily came to pay her respects the next morning, her hair styled as a married woman's, she was swaying on her feet, her eyes glistening with tears. Claire, please don't be angry with Ethan. He only did this to protect my reputation. Don't worry, I'm not angry. The law doesn't recognize second wives. Why would I care about some silly game he's playing to make you feel better? Her face went pale, and she looked at me with tear-filled eyes. Why must you be so aggressive? I've shown you nothing but respect. I couldn't be bothered with her. Her maid tried to help her to a seat, but Lily let out a yelp, her body went limp, and she crumpled to her knees in front of me. Well, if she was going to kneel, she could stay there. It wasn't like she'd get up even if I told her to. I sipped my tea slowly, letting her kneel. Only when she started to wobble from the numbness in her knees did I casually ask, "It sounds like you think you had some noble reason for all this?" She bowed her head repeatedly. Because I have a child, there's so much gossip. Ethan only married me to save my reputation. He's the best man in the world, and I don't want you to misunderstand him. As she spoke, I saw a sliver of fabric peeking out from behind the door. Ethan must have been listening. I'm sure he was very touched. I remained silent. Seeing this, Lily clapped her hands. Stella, the pale-faced maid, shuffled in and presented the baby to me. I glanced at the child and was shocked. Was this even a child? She was as small as a kitten, with thinning hair and her body covered in bruises. But Lily's face was resolute. To put your mind at ease, I'm giving you my biological daughter. You can hit her, scold her, do whatever you want with her. I won't say a word. I made a tisk sound. Wow. So just because it wasn't her own child, she could abuse her like this? This fragile little cousin wasn't so sweet after all. I wouldn't stoop to that. If you want to hit her, you do it yourself. Don't drag me into your depraved little games. A flicker of triumph crossed Lily's eyes. She lunged forward, crying, and raised her hand to strike the baby, but Daisy blocked her. Unable to land a blow, Lily started screaming at the infant instead. It's all your fault, you little bastard. You're the reason Claire and Ethan are fighting. This is all your fault. From outside the door, I heard a faint cold chuckle, and then nothing. It seemed Ethan also believed this was my child, and had no intention of intervening. Lily created a scene, and the baby, terrified, began to wail. Seeing the crying infant, even Stella, who was holding her, looked pained but dared not say anything. Though it hurt to watch, my pity had its limits. I just kept thinking that if I hadn't found out, it would be my Ava being treated this way. Still, I couldn't hold back. What did this child ever do to you? Why beat her like this? When she grows up, she'll resent you for it. Lily studied my face, a smug look in her eyes. What's this, Claire? Are you feeling sorry for her? Don't you dare. She's just a worthless little thing, not worth your concern. With that, she grabbed a candle from the table and went to drip hot wax onto the baby's face. I jumped up to stop her, but Ethan burst in and grabbed my arm. Lily has her reasons for doing this. Don't interfere. Daisy reached out to block her, but in the struggle, Some of the hot wax still spattered onto the baby's cheek. The infant screamed in agony, but Lily was unmoved. A large blister formed on the baby's delicate skin. Still not satisfied, Lily pouted, tossed the child back to Stella, and stared at me, her eyes full of triumph. "What's the matter, Claire? Do you feel sorry for her? Does your heart ache for this pathetic little creature?" I pressed my lips together and said nothing. She snatched the household keys and account books from my stunned hands and swept out of the room. Ethan and my mother-in-law didn't react at all. They just smiled and cooed at the daughter in my arms. I cautiously asked, "Shouldn't we call a doctor for Lily's daughter?" A look of disgust crossed Ethan's face. "A doctor for that little vermin? Just let her be." Everything became crystal clear. The disgust on Ethan's face was supposedly for the child, but it was really meant for me. I made my decision right then and there. Raising my own daughter well, and watching those two destroy themselves would be the best revenge. I handed over control of the household finances, but kept all my dowry money for myself, not spending a single cent on the family. Although Ethan had a government job, his salary was just enough to cover the Song family's basic expenses. Any luxury purchase would break the budget. For years, my dowry was the only reason the family had been able to live so lavishly. Once I cut them off, Lily's management of the household became a nightmare. Complaints echoed from every corner, and one of the older housekeepers even cursed Lily to her face. "Who do you think you are? A mere mistress ordering us around? You have no shame." When the lady of the house was in charge, we had sweet soup every day. Now you've cut that out to buy yourself more makeup and jewelry. Are we supposed to eat dirt? Lily got into a physical fight with the housekeeper. She ended up with a scratched face, her hair pulled out in clumps, and was left a complete mess. Ethan came to my rooms to complain. "Lily is still too inexperienced to run the house. You should take it back." I was calmly feeding my daughter fresh goat's milk. She was being raised like a princess, plump and rosy, with a gold and jade necklace around her neck, looking like a doll from a New Year's painting. Ethan couldn't resist picking Ava up, his face full of adoration. "You really know how to raise a child. That other child of Lily's, she's really not being raised well at all," I said, testing the waters, trying to find a sliver of hope for the girl. Ethan frowned. "That's how it should be. She's not a Song. She's a born bastard. If we treated her well, people would start questioning Lily's character." I said no more. Ethan begged me to take back the household management, but I refused, claiming I was still unwell and needed to focus on raising my child. Though Ethan and Lily were reluctant, they had to agree since it was for the sake of their daughter. Daisy secretly asked me, "Ma'am, it's gotten this bad. Why don't we just get a divorce?" I shook my head. The pig pen is built, and the pigs are fat and shiny. If we leave now, all that work will have been for nothing. Being a widow is much better than being a divorcee. Everything in the Song family will be mine. After that, I paid no attention to household affairs. I used my dowry to eat well and go out, ignoring everything at home. After 6 months of managing the house, Lily looked increasingly haggard and worn down, as if she were covered in a layer of dust. The moment I let go of the purse strings, the entire Song household tightened up. The daily gourmet meals disappeared, replaced by simple fare, which made my mother-in-law complain endlessly. They couldn't afford to pay the large staff of maids and nannies, so they had to sell off half of them. The once grand Song family was suddenly pinching pennies, while my Ava lived in the lap of luxury. They ate plain porridge, we ate treasure congee, rice noodle rolls, and all kinds of noodle soups. On holidays, they'd stew a pork knuckle that no one dared to take too much of. We ate so much meat we got sick of it and had to eat simple porridge and pickles to cleanse our palates. We drank bird's nest soup every day until we were bored and craved something salty. One day, Ethan came to see his daughter. He had just finished dinner but looked pale and shaky. When he saw me picking out the tender flesh of a turbot for Ava, his eyes lit up. He immediately told Daisy to bring him a bowl of rice and moved to join us at the table. I gave a look to a young maid, who scurried off to Lily's wing and announced, "The master is dining in our wing tonight. He said the food over here is just too bland." Lily stormed into my rooms just as Ethan was about to take his first bite. She threw her arms around him and started wailing. "Ethan, my love, do Do you remember our vows? Are you tired of me? Are you going to eat this fish all by yourself? While they were arguing, Ava and I finished off most of the fish, leaving only the head. After Ethan finally calmed Lily down and asked Daisy to bring him another bowl, so they could eat together, my mother-in-law arrived. She walked in, her eyes immediately fixing on the table. Seeing the fish, she snatched the bowl from Ethan's hands and began to eat voraciously. Soon the fish head was gone. Ethan tried to get another pair of chopsticks, but Daisy looked apologetic. That was the last bowl of rice. The old madam ate it, so there's none left. The two of them stared at the table, their eyes green with envy, but they couldn't exactly fight an elder for food. My mother-in-law finished her meal, looking utterly satisfied. Claire, the food here is so good. I'll be back for dinner tomorrow. Ethan and Lily also stared intently at my kitchenette, clearly planning to come back for dinner as well. Ethan was a mid-level official, but he had to entertain colleagues, had a taste for expensive antiques, and Lily loved buying gold jewelry and cosmetics. With a large staff to support, their finances were actually very tight. The family had no business since they had only maintained their glamorous facade because of my money. Now to fund their own hobbies, they had to cut back on food and clothing. That evening, the whole family gathered in my rooms, sitting at the table, sipping tea in silence, refusing to leave. But I had already taken Ava and gone to my parents' house, leaving a simple message. We ran out of food. Went to my parents for dinner. When I arrived at my parents' house, they were just sitting down to a lavish dinner. Ava and I had just taken our seats when a servant announced that Ethan and Lily had also arrived. My mother was holding Ava, her face wreathed in smiles. This child is just wonderful, like a little snowball. Then she looked up and saw Zoe trailing behind Ethan and Lily and was startled. Did you bring a monkey with you? Zoe stood there awkwardly, her eyes darting around nervously. When she saw Ava in her pink dress, her expression froze. She stood there silently, her face skeletal, her eyes filled with a mixture of envy and longing, the look of someone in hell seeing a glimpse of heaven. My mother was stunned. Why does your little maid look like that? Lily replied smugly. What little maid? She's just a little wretch. She's lucky to be alive. Then, right in front of my mother, she dumped a plate of food on the floor. Zoe, come and eat. Zoe obediently knelt and was about to eat from the floor when my mother pulled her up and handed her a steamed bun. You're not really going to eat that, are you? Here, good girl, eat this. Zoe devoured the bun, choking several times in her haste. Lily laughed wildly, but everyone was shocked when they learned that this was Lily's biological daughter. Later, my mother said to me, a woman who can treat her own daughter like that is not someone to be trifled with. So I told her about the baby swap. My mother was dumbfounded, clutching her chest, unable to speak for a long time. Then she hugged Ava, her face filled with relief. Thank God you found out early. She asked me what I was going to do. I said, eat well, drink well, and have no worries. I'm quite happy watching them pinch pennies while still having to send gifts and toys for Ava. Ethan and Lily ate a lot at that dinner. They were so full they could barely walk but still asked to pack some leftovers to take home. I specifically told the kitchen to pack some of the older, not so fresh food for them. Then I followed them back to the songhouse and listened to them spend the entire night with diarrhea, fighting over the only bathroom. At that point, their love couldn't save them. Their vows were yesterday's news. All that was left was the mournful cry from outside the bathroom door. Ethan, please, open the door. After that, Ethan came to my parents' house to freeload a few more times, but each time he got sick. The next day at court he couldn't stop farting. He accused me of feeding him spoiled food. I just smiled and said, my dear husband, you're so used to a simple life. After eating plain food for so long, your stomach just can't handle rich meals anymore. He gritted his teeth. Then what about you? Oh, me? I'm used to rich food. If I suddenly had to eat plain porridge, I'd get sick too. He and Lily were furious. They tried their best to have another child just to spite me, but they soon discovered that no matter how hard they tried, Lily's belly remained flat. I thought the Song family would crack soon, but instead, they started treating Ava even better. For his daughter's sake, Ethan endured his impoverished life. He and Lily would visit her often, their eyes shining with love as they watched her. Even when his official robes had a hole in them, he didn't complain. Despite their tight budget, they still managed to buy Ava a small gold bracelet. I lived a blissful life, staying home and raising my child. I watched my little angel grow, saw her first tiny teeth come in, heard her call me mama in her sweet voice, and watched her grow taller, learning to bow to me properly. Ethan and Lily came by more and more often, almost every day. They would gather around Ava, delighting in her every milestone. They even clapped wildly with joy the first time she managed to pick up a single pea with her chopsticks. And Zoe, trailing behind them, saw it all. I don't know what kind of life that child was living. She was so thin she looked grotesque, her skin wrinkled and clinging to bones that seemed terrifyingly fragile. Her cheeks were deeply sunken. But the way she looked at Ethan and Lily grew more and more intense, a fiery mix of extreme jealousy and pain. She surely couldn't understand why her own parents hated her to the bone, but doted on another woman's child. At times like these, Lily would look at me with triumph in her eyes. "So Claire, what do you think of how I'm raising Zoe?" I would look at the girl who was being raised like a ghost and say quietly, "She is your daughter. You should care for her, don't go too far." Lily would shriek back at me, "Claire, trash is trash. She doesn't deserve fine clothes and good food. She deserves to beg on the ground like a dog." I thought that was the worst of it, but I soon learned that Lily's cruelty had no bottom. The year the girls came of age, news came from the court that the emperor was looking to choose a consort for the crown prince from among the daughters of officials, to be raised alongside him. This was a path to immense fortune, and every official with a daughter was eager to try their luck. By this time, Ava had grown into a beautiful and graceful young woman, skilled in household management, music, painting, and literature. Zoe, despite the abuse, had also grown into a tall, slender young lady. She had become more withdrawn and cunning, often hiding from Lily. One day, Daisy told me she had seen Zoe secretly doing embroidery to sell, saving up penny by penny to put a deposit on a set of hair ornaments at a jewelry shop. But Lily soon found out. She dragged Zoe out of her room, slapped her brutally, and ordered the stable hands and grooms from the outer courtyard to beat her with a wooden plank. It was outrageous. The daughter of a government official, beaten by common servants? As Zoe struggled, her clothes tore, revealing her scarred shoulders. I couldn't watch anymore. I gestured for Daisy to take my cloak and cover Zoe with it. But Lily only grew more arrogant. "What's this, Claire? Feeling sorry for her? Are you trying to stop me from managing my own house? This little wretch got ideas about social climbing, so I'm going to crush them. She'll be lucky to marry a stable hand." She looked down at Zoe. "Zoe, it's not that I don't want to keep you, but someone of your status doesn't belong in the Song residence. Since you're so desperate for a husband, I'll grant you your wish today." She smiled at the servants in the courtyard. "Today we'll have a little competition. Whoever can drag Zoe home will have her as his wife. I'll even throw in a $10,000 dowry. How about it?" The chance to marry the daughter of a mid-level official, even an illegitimate one, should have been a dream come true. But after years of Lily's abuse, many of the servants looked at her with disgust. Her clothes were torn, everyone saw her shoulder. "We don't want used goods." Helpless, Zoe looked at everyone, her voice hoarse as she begged, "Help me, please help me." I finally couldn't take it anymore. "Stop." I brought Zoe back to my rooms. She was covered in injuries, her face scratched and swollen, and she was trembling like a quail in the snow. Ethan came looking for me. "Why did you take Zoe? You're not her mother. Don't tell me you actually feel sorry for her." My face was cold. Listen to yourself. The daughter of a government official, thrown into the courtyard for servants to abuse? If the emperor hears about this, your career is over. Ethan was unconcerned. This happened in the inner courtyard. It won't get out. Not necessarily, I thought. After all, I'm here, and I don't have a filter. "When are you sending Zoe back?" he pressed. "Lily is worried sick. If you ask me, if you're not her mother, you should mind your own business. You're just making everyone unhappy. I am the lady of this house, which means I have the right to discipline her. And why is a grown man like you always meddling in women's affairs? Is it because you're not important at court, so you have to come here to feel powerful?" Ethan was about to argue when Ava lifted the curtain and walked in, calling out sweetly, "Father." Ethan's expression softened. He spoke a few words to Ava and then left, but not before warning me not to meddle. I was silent. My feelings for this girl were complicated. Her mother had malicious intentions, willing to sacrifice my daughter for her own child's future. If I hadn't found out, Zoe would be enjoying a life of privilege, and my daughter would be her. Zoe herself had done nothing wrong, but if I hadn't been vigilant, she would have been the ultimate beneficiary of a terrible crime. I couldn't bring myself to feel true pity for her. Her mother, Lily, was the sole author of her tragedy. I turned and went back inside. Zoe had already changed and combed her hair. Her cheeks were gaunt, but her eyes burned with a startling intensity. She dropped to the ground in front of me. "Please, ma'am, help me." I was surprised. "You know your mother and I are enemies. Why would you ask for my help?" She looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "Since the day I was born, I've lived a life worse than a pig in a sty. In the winter, she'd pour dirty water on my bed, and I'd freeze to the sheets. If I did something right, she beat me. If I did something wrong, she'd beat me half to death. I hate her. I hate her." Her eyes looked as if they were on fire. "I want them to regret it. I want them to regret everything." She banged her head on the floor. "Please, ma'am, help me. I just need one chance." I still didn't agree to help her. I only told her to rest and recover, and that I would send her medicine. She cried with disappointment, then pointed at Ava. "Ma'am, we both have mothers. Why did yours raise you so well, while mine forces me to live like this?" I didn't know how to answer. She finally left, crestfallen. Ava looked at me, confused. "Mother, she's so pitiful. Why not help her?" I shook my head. Her hatred for this family runs too deep. All these years, I did nothing while she was abused. If she gets power, what if she tries to destroy the whole family? I can't take that risk. After a long hesitation, I saw Ethan approaching. "The stablehand's wife died," he announced. He came to me, said he doesn't mind that Zoe was exposed, and wants to take her as his wife. I agreed. "Prepare a dowry for her. She'll be married off tomorrow." I wasn't surprised, but the coldness of it still chilled me. "She's your cousin's daughter. After raising her for all these years, don't you feel any guilt treating her this way?" Ethan tried to flatter me. "She's a mutt. Nothing like our daughter. Our Ava is the real treasure, precious and perfect. No one can compare." I laughed coldly. If I didn't already know his true nature, I might have been fooled by his heartfelt words. Now the more he praised our daughter, the more it felt like he was cursing me. That night, I sent Zoe a set of hairpins and jewelry and told her how to sneak into the selection ceremony. "This is all I can do for you. The rest of the way, you have to walk on your own." She kowtowed desperately. "Ma'am, no one in this entire estate has ever been kind to me except you. I know you feel sorry for me. I can see it. Don't worry, I will repay you one day." As planned, on the day of the prince's selection, Zoe disguised herself as another young lady's maid and slipped in. She wore simple but elegant makeup that highlighted her slender figure and the tragic, poetic sadness in her eyes. Lily was beautiful, and so was Zoe. Years of torment hadn't destroyed her looks, they had given her an air of melancholy grace. The crown prince was captivated at first sight. Though she wasn't chosen as the main princess, he specifically requested that she stay to serve him. It was then that she revealed her true identity. Ethan was a mid-level official in the administration. While the illegitimate daughter of his house couldn't be the crown princess, she was just barely qualified to be a royal consort. As for Ava, I had no desire for her to be involved in court politics, so I had her play dumb. She dressed plainly, her makeup was intentionally clumsy, and she spent the whole time sitting in a corner eating pastries, completely unnoticed. When the news reached the Song family, Lily nearly lost her mind. When Zoe was sent back in a small sedan chair, Lily rushed up and slapped her dozens of times, then threw herself at the feet of the royal steward who had escorted Zoe home. "Your Highness, please forgive us. My daughter is worthless and incompetent. What's more, she lost her virtue as a child. She is unworthy of being a consort. Please, Your Highness, take back your decree." But the royal steward just sneered. The Song family certainly has an interesting way of doing things. Even a mistress can come out and slander the master's daughter. I am not a mistress. I am his second wife, a legitimate wife. Second wife? Sir, did you really take a second wife? Ethan hastily denied it. No, absolutely not. She's just a favorite of mine and my cousin. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his legs trembled. The current emperor did not permit second wives. Their whole second wife arrangement was just a scheme to suppress me in the back courtyard and appease Lily. They would never dare to announce it publicly. Seeing Ethan stammer, the steward's men grabbed Lily and began to slap her, 50, 60 times, without stopping. Ethan rushed forward to protect her, and only then did they stop. Lily's face was a bloody, swollen mess. Later that night, a blood-curdling scream came from Zoe's room, followed by the sound of a woman's curses piercing the night air. I had a bad feeling and sent people to check. What they found was a scene of horror. In the courtyard, Stella was weeping, pounding her fists on a brutish-looking stable hand, who was staring at Zoe's room with a look of pure satisfaction. Zoe sat inside, her clothes torn, her skirt stained with blood. She stared blankly into space, as if her soul had left her body. Stella was sobbing hysterically. Who let him in? Who let him in here? After caring for Zoe for so many years, Stella had developed genuine affection for her, but she was powerless to protect her. The stable hand grinned smugly. Doesn't matter who let me in. Zoe's my woman now. I'm taking her home to give me a son. The courtyard erupted into chaos. Ethan and Lily arrived, but they seemed completely unfazed. Ethan said, "We can't let this get out, or the crown prince will be furious. Here's what we do. We'll send Ava to be the consort instead, and marry Zoe off to the stable hand. 2 birds, 1 stone." Zoe, who had been completely catatonic, suddenly shot up and lunged at Ethan, sinking her teeth into his ear. Ethan screamed in pain, trying to pull her off, but she bit down with all her might, refusing to let go even as he beat her bloody. "Ah, my ear." Ethan's ear was half torn off. Zoe, her mouth full of blood, gave a terrifying smile and swallowed the piece of flesh. Ethan's eyes bulged with rage, while Lily ordered her men forward. This ungrateful daughter should be drowned in the pond before she brings any more shame to this family. Zoe laughed maniacally as she was bound and dragged away. Before they took her, she screamed, "Mother, did you ever, for 1 second, think of me as your daughter?" Lily spat on the ground. "You dog-born bastard, you think you're worthy? The sight of you makes me sick." At those words, Zoe lost all will to live. She stopped struggling and was dragged away, laughing hysterically. Ava was terrified, trembling in my arms. "Mother," she whispered, "Father and Lily have gone insane." Hearing Ava's voice, Ethan, despite the blood streaming down his face, rushed over and grabbed her hand. "My sweet girl, this is all for you. If you become the prince's consort, the death of one Zoe means nothing." Ava screamed and pushed him away, but Lily also came forward weeping. "That's right, Ava. You are the one who should be by the future king's side. Zoe is nothing but a piece of trash. No matter how bad Zoe is, she is still your daughter. How can you treat her like this?" I couldn't stand it anymore. If you truly disliked her, you could have sent her far away instead of torturing her. Lily ignored me, continuing to pull at Ava's hand. When Ava kept hiding behind me, I stepped in front of her. "Lily, you're scaring my daughter." Lily's eyes froze, then she burst into wild laughter. "Your daughter? Your daughter? Claire, your daughter was defiled and drowned in a pond years ago. The precious Ava you've raised with so much love and care is my biological daughter. You never guessed, did you, Claire? Ha 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 ha." Laughing maniacally, she reached for Ava. "Ava, my daughter, look how wonderful you are now. Even though I, Lily, am uneducated, I still produce such a perfect daughter." Her hand finally passed me and touched Ava's face, but Ava coldly slapped it away. "I am not your daughter. Ava, darling, I know this is sudden. You might not be able to accept it, but you are my daughter. I don't want to be your daughter. You do those things to your own child. You're a monster." Ava's face was filled with disgust. She had witnessed Zoe's suffering her whole life and saw Lily as a venomous snake to be avoided at all costs. Lily sneered at me. "Why are you protecting my daughter? Ava is mine, my precious noble daughter, the true heir of the Song family. Ethan also leaned in close to Ava. Ava, you're my daughter with Lily. We went through so much for you. To make you the person you are today. Ava shrank away from the crazed couple. I just held her, shielding my daughter from these lunatics. Seeing me, Lily suddenly burst out laughing again. Claire, you're a fool, a complete fool. Ava isn't your daughter. Ava is. I cut her off, my voice flat and cold. Oh, are you talking about the day Ava was born, when you sent Stella to swap the babies and poison my water to make me sterile? I've known about that for years. The look on Lily's face froze. What did you say? I said coolly. So you swapped the babies. So what? Lily's face looked like it was about to crack. What? You don't care? Ava isn't your daughter, she's mine. Your daughter. I said, after Stella swapped them. I swapped them right back. Lily's crazed expression was fixed in place. What did you say? I said I swapped the babies back. Zoe is your biological daughter. Lily stared at me, dumbstruck. Then she let out a piercing shriek and ran toward the pond. My daughter. My daughter. Ethan didn't even have time to curse at me. He spun around to follow her, but his legs gave out, and he fell hard, blood pouring from his nose and mouth as he lost consciousness. Zoe didn't die. I had sent people to follow them and rescue her just as she was about to be thrown into the pond. With a complicated expression, Daisy told Zoe the truth about her birth and handed her a vial. The madam said if you choose to stay, you can keep your mother company. But if you want a new life, you can leave this place. Zoe hesitated for a moment, then watched as Lily, looking completely unhinged, ran toward the pond and dove in. Daisy said, see? She does care about you in her own way. Zoe replied, I just feel sick. She swallowed the potion that induced a death-like state and lay down in the grass, her breathing slowly stopping. When Lily was pulled from the water, she turned and saw Zoe lying in the grass, her face a deathly white. Lily screamed and threw herself on top of Zoe's body, wailing, My daughter! My daughter! As her hand moved, it revealed the worthless character she had personally branded onto Zoe's skin. The shock was too much. Her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. When she woke up, I told her, Zoe has been buried. She said she would never forgive you, not even in death. Lily went mad. She spent her days wandering the courtyard, clutching a rusty old branding iron, telling anyone who would listen, I have a daughter, she's so beautiful. The madam is raising her for me. When she's all grown up, she'll bring her back to me. I'll get a perfect daughter for free. No one paid her any attention. A while later, she disappeared. Some said the stable hand who had attacked Zoe, still unable to find a wife, had kidnapped her. As for Ethan, after his fall, he was paralyzed. He couldn't move at all. He was confined to his bed, dependent on others for every meal. The person who cared for him was Stella. The maid had raised Zoe since she was a baby and had grown to love her, though she never dared show it in front of Ethan and Lily. After Zoe's death, Stella was lost in grief. When she finally recovered, she became silent and withdrawn, but her hands grew strong. She would often pinch Ethan so hard he would scream. My mother-in-law cried every day seeing her son suffer. Eventually, she cried herself blind. One day, she tripped over a threshold and never got up again. And now, I am the one in charge of the Song family. Everything here belongs to me and my daughter. It only took a decade. I can be very patient. As for why those two never had any more children, it's because when Daisy went to dump the poisoned water, she ran into another young maid from their courtyard. The maid was feeling sick and tired and was too lazy to boil her own water, so she took the drugged hot water from Daisy. The poison they had intended for me, they drank themselves. And once I found out, simply did nothing to stop it. I really didn't do anything at all. I just stayed home, looking pretty and raising my child.